All right, all of you Disney fans, we're back once again for another magical installment of DisneyBlu's Disney On Demand. And recently, The Hunchback of Notre Dame has been released on Blu-ray and DVD. Hunchback 1 and Hunchback of the Notre Dame Part 2. Fantastic Disney film. One that's a little bit deeper, harder story, something that was full of heart and fun and great music. And you have asked for it, and with us here this week, we have none other than Paul Kandel. Yes, you may know him as the jester, the ringleader of all the Gypsies, and better known as Clopin. Welcome to Disney On Demand.
Hey, to be here.
It is our pleasure having you on. We've asked our listeners over and over again, and Hunchback of Notre Dame always gets brought up just because everybody loves it. It was a different direction for Disney, and your character, of course, being the narrator of the film and whatnot, it plays a big role into making all that connect and happen. But before we roll into Hunchback, I guess, you started off, you're working in Broadway, and you've been part of such great Broadway shows like Jesus Christ Superstar, Titanic, The Who's Tommy, many others. I guess, what got you started in Broadway and heading down that career path?
Well, I spent years working in regional theater, as many actors do in New York, waiting for your Broadway break. And Tommy was that for me. And it took a long time to get to, quite a few years. I was 40 when I did that show. And it was incredibly exciting to be in a show that was not only a fantastic show and incredible fun to perform, but that audiences loved, was a huge hit, and got me a Tony nomination. And all those things in combination, I think, helped me get my audition for Disney.
Well, and working on such a show like Tommy, I mean, it's world-renowned. Everybody loves it. And like you said, getting that Tony Award in 1993, just, that had to be fulfilling right there because you're part of this great Broadway production. And then, you're getting the accolades for it as well.
Yes, that was very sweet. Actually, it was a Tony nomination, not an award somebody else won. But just to be nominated put me in a very small company of respected colleagues. So it was an extraordinary thrill to be in that show, my first Broadway show, to get a Tony nomination. It was breathtaking, a time that I'll never forget. And at that time, Disney was looking at actors in Broadway shows to work on their films, and I was lucky enough, I think, because of the visibility of that job, just to get the audition, because this was a star-studded cast, and I am not a star, and I wasn't at that time, certainly, and I'm not now. I'm a blue-collar actor who does what he does because he loves it, and I make a decent living, but I'm not a star. And so there was nothing more exciting than getting an audition, even, for a Disney feature animation piece. So the audition was thrilling and terrifying at the same time, because I very much wanted to get the job, and did.
The thing is, you said, you're not a star, you work because you love what you do. But you know what, to all the Disney fans out there, you are a star because, they asked to get you on the show as, well, your Gypsy leader is definitely one of the favorite characters.
I love all of those people. I love them for thinking that and feeling that way. And I put every ounce of heart I could into every note and every word. It was a thrilling experience, and it stretched over a considerable period of time. It was 3 years from the day I auditioned for that job to the release of that film. A long time, and actually the character originally only had one song.
Really?
Topsy-turvy. And as time went on and the movie metamorphosed in how the story was to be told, Alan and Stephen wrote more music for me. And there was, because I think I was doing a decent job, and also because the manner of storytelling in the movie changed. And I recorded actually a lot of narration, which they eventually removed. So that was fine with me because you get paid for each day that you record that, and I enjoyed that. But the nature of the nature of the movie changed in the course of all those 3 years. Many things were rewritten, songs were recorded and dropped. It's just a tremendous amount of very, very passionate work on the part of everyone who's involved in making these movies. It's amazing.
Well, and like you said, over the course of all those years, it's gone through so many transformations. And like I said, your character, he kind of starts off the film, you have the narration, it kind of sets that tone and that feel. And with the musical numbers, Topsy-Turvy, of course, always remains to be a favorite. But I myself am a big fan of the Court of Miracles. Now, when it comes to picking any of the songs that you've done, which is your favorite?
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, because I would say the Court of Miracles is my second favorite, although I do love that piece, and it was a lot of fun to record. And that was one of the additional songs that Stephen and Alan wrote in the course of time. So it's a lot of fun, and I think it works very well in the movie. If I listen to Hunchback, I listen to the last 2 minutes. That's my favorite part. It's the reprise of Bells of Notre Dame.
Yes.
That's my favorite piece. It's beautiful. It wraps up the movie in a gorgeous, intelligent, and passionate way, and I love singing it. So that little piece out of everything that I did in that movie is the one that, if I want to be reminded of how passionate I was about that work, about how much I enjoyed that work, it's that.
Well, I mean, and that is a very powerful piece. I mean, I guess with this film and being part of a Disney film, and like songs like the Bells of Notre Dame and items like that, it is a very serious Disney film. Is that something that you recognized right away when you were reading the script and seeing the transformation of this film, that it definitely was a very different direction than most of Disney's films as of previous years?
Yes, I did know that, and it was incredibly brave, but not surprising to me that they would. I hesitate to use this phrase, take the risk, but I'll use it. Take the risk of taking a treasured piece of literature and trying to make it accessible to a very wide audience. That's a tall order.
Well, I mean, and it's very big. I mean, that's a very big order, because it is so serious.
And I will tell you that the amount of thought that went into how precisely to do this, from the manner of storytelling, to the nature of the music, to the artwork. I mean, I had the great good luck to visit the LA and Orlando studios and watch the artists at work. And it's unbelievable. At that time when these films were still hand-drawn, there were thousands of artists working on this. And each one that I met was more fascinating and passionate about what they did than the next. And the artwork, when you see it up close, it's just breathtaking. And there was a tremendous amount of thought and intelligence put into how do we thread the needle of telling this basically dark story in a way that is accessible and entertaining. So very tall order, very brave people, very, very talented people. Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz, that's a pretty, those are two powerfully talented people.
Definitely, I mean, and, with what they've done with that kind of story and, making it so, having to do it just right. I mean, being part of this and being part of this production, I mean, it really is probably something that it truly seems that really left a great place in your heart.
It did. It absolutely did. I enjoyed every single minute. And when you record a big song like Topsy-Turvy, it's a 65-piece orchestra and you. So that's a peak experience right there. So, you know, it's partly terrifying because you really don't want it to go badly. And it's thrilling, like standing on the edge of the cliff and diving off. And the song is recorded first all the way through many, many times, and then one verse at a time with notes from Alan and Stephen and the producer and the sound guy. So you do the whole song many times, then you do one verse, then you do a single line. So you're working very hard to get it just right. Well, and that intention to get things just right is the hallmark of what makes Disney work as good as it is. There is the passionate intention to get it, if you can, just right. They will put in an endless amount of time and work and thought and money into getting it just right.
Well, that is definitely the kind of thing, though, like you said, it's their staple, it's their hallmark that just makes it just perfect. And, you know, your portrayal, like you said, on Topsy Turvy, say, you know, it's the kind of thing where because they put that much heart behind it and they have, you know, that much quality control and they want it to be perfect, that, you know, here we are many, many years later and it still holds up. It's still a masterpiece, and, you know, children today and adults and everyone still pass down that film and that music and the soundtrack as, you know, it's part of Disney's legacy that isn't going to go away.
And I agree with you entirely there, and it happens because of the level of caring on the part of the people who do these things. I mean, the producers, originally Roy Conley and then later Don Hahn, were incredibly kind to me. I can't say enough about how kind people were to me and demanding at the same time. You know, they wanted the best, and so you kept working until you got the best you had to offer. And that's a thrill. You know, we will extend this session 2 hours. We're not there yet. That 2 hours costs a lot of money, an enormous soundstage with a huge orchestra. And, you know, we're not done yet. Are you okay to continue working? Absolutely. I'm not satisfied either. Let's keep going. And so the passion that goes into the making of these things is across the board. I didn't run into anyone who felt anything less than each day we work to do the best we can, the absolute best we can. And it doesn't matter what it costs, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. This is the way we do things. That attention to detail and that passion about doing your best results in durable work.
Well, you know, and that passion and whatnot also goes through to just the animators and, like you said, the hand-drawn animated days and, you know, that quality control. And also coming back to your character then with those animators, and, you know, you had the pleasure of visiting with them. I have to say that, you know, they really captured your character as well as he really transformed into, you know, what you look like. You know, they captured your mannerisms and how you look. And, you know, when they peel off that mask on him in the film, you're like, wow, there's Paul.
Well, I'll tell you how that works, and it surprised me at the time. When you audition for them, they have a sort of preliminary sketch of the character, but very preliminary. So it showed a kind of lanky person. And that's about it. You know, they were clearly a sort of string beanie, lanky person with with an expressive body, let's say. Then once I got the job, I was flown out to L.A. To meet the guy who was the head animator for this character, a gentleman named Mike Surrey, incredibly sweet and incredibly talented. And the way it works is that the head animator, the guy who designs the character, meets with the actor, and we spent an entire day of me going through text and singing and moving while he sketched. And then each time I recorded a song, he was sitting on the side sketching away like a lunatic. The idea being that the character would physically evolve from his sense of how I move and how I work. So that's why you're seeing that, oh my God, it's Paul, because this guy was working like a demon to extract, let's say, the best that he could from what I had to offer as far as my physicality and my movement is concerned. So it doesn't look exactly like me, but it has the essence of me.
Oh, most definitely. It has that that flow, that feel, that that caricature version of you, and it really does come across. And like we've talked about with many of our Disney fans out there, and your character being the leader of the Gypsies, and this fun, flamboyant character, being part of this film and seeing it evolve into the parks, and they had the stage show when it was at Hollywood Studios, and many other things like that. I guess, how did it feel after the premiere of it to see this character that you have now created and brought life to, along with the animators and the writers and whatnot, and seeing it and just having that feel of, wow, that's a piece of my legacy that is going to be around now?
It's hard to find the right adjective for that. It's thrilling, satisfying. I shed a tear. Moving, exciting. I'm running out of adjectives. To be at the premiere was an extraordinary experience. To think that people will be watching this movie for years to come and going, oh, look at that guy. Hey, that's pretty good. That feels great. But, greater than that was the experience of the work. Just like you love what you do, you love doing these interviews. I love doing what I do. And the work itself was so satisfying and so rich that it's that lives in me more than anything else. The memory of my enjoyment of the people with whom I worked, and the quality of the work itself. So that's what stays with me more than anything else.
Well, and those are the kind of things that, being an actor like yourself and a voice actor and being on Broadway, it is that kind of thing where it is that moment in time and those memories that are always going to be with you. And, of course, that moving along, you were involved with it much more even after with the Hunchback of Notre Dame too. How did it feel, knowing that they were going to make a sequel to this? Was it something at first you were hesitant about, or just fully embraced and was like, all right, let's tackle this and make it truly amazing as well? Because it did go on to, get its own fan following as a sequel. And it was, you were even nominated for a DVD Premiere Award for Best Original Song in Hunchback of Notre Dame too.
I didn't know that until recently, I have to tell you, because nobody sent me a letter to say that I was nominated for that award. It's interesting. I never knew it until recently. It's nice of you to mention it. I was very happy to continue to work on it. And again, you have a different team, but just as passionate about, telling their story as best they can. So, I was thrilled to have that opportunity. I enjoyed it. I'm proud of it. Nice to get another nomination. I'm waiting to get an award for something. Getting a lot of nominations. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Well, I guess looking back at the entire, the film, the process, and, being at the premiere and being involved with the Disney Studios and hand-drawn animation and whatnot, I guess looking forward to today and things like that. I mean, when you look back, is hand-drawn animation still, this is always a debate with everybody. Do you feel that hand-drawn animation still has that something extra that just can't be captured with CGI? Because I truly feel that there is something about the artist's hand, flowing on a piece of paper that is truly different than CGI.
Yes, you're precisely right there. And it's a kind of yin-yang trade-off. There are some things that that literally, physically can't do with hand-drawn. It's just not physically possible to do them. And CGI makes those things possible. So, some paradigm that allows you to have some of both, maybe. I mean, in moving towards CGI, a lot of the artists, there were studios all over the world. There was one in Paris, in Orlando, in L.A. They have many less artists working for them. And those particular skills are hard to come by. There's some people that had been with Disney for years and years. Mike Surrey, the guy who was the lead animator for my character, excuse me, pardon me, the end of a cold. Mike Surrey had been with them for quite some time and worked his way up from, a beginner animator to a lead animator, which is sort of the top of the food chain as far as hand-drawn is concerned. They audition to lead animate a character in the same way that actors do. They'll take 8 or 10 lead animators, say, okay, here's the film, here's the character, give us preliminary sketches. And then one of them gets the gig.
I was going to say, it is just as cutthroat, and it's a process, and may the best talent win.
Yeah, but I wouldn't use the word cutthroat because they're all very supportive of each other. I mean, everyone wants to get the job that they want to get, but there was a tremendous bon ami, if I can use that word. You can edit that out if you don't like it. Collegial sense among the people who were the artists.
Okay.
So, cutthroat I think would be a little severe. Competition, certainly. But healthy competition, let's say. Competition's not a bad thing.
Well, when it comes, to the film and Hunchback of Notre Dame, and, since we are talking, about the film and your involvement, I guess when it comes to, doing the dialogue for the film and doing the songs, doing both of them, is there, one thing that you just had the most fun doing? I know, you like you said, you get to be in the studio and the music, but also doing the dialogue.
Well, the dialogue was a tremendous amount of fun. And again, you do that over the course of hours and hours, over and over and over and over and over and over, with notes and input from an assortment of people. The writers, the directors, the producers, everyone has a little suggestion. So you do it one time, and then you get 6 suggestions from 6 different people. And then you do it again. And then you do it again and again and again until everybody, including you, including me, is satisfied, yes, this is the best we're going to get. So you have a sort of group of people working together to get to the best. As far as the thing that was the most fun for me, there I have to fall on your side of the court and say the most fun I had doing a recording was Court of Miracles.
Now, I guess I was going to say, what made that just that much more memorable? Like the style of the song, the way the recording went, or what made that little notch in your head of?
It's just a fun song. It does exactly what it intended to do in the structure of the movie. Clopin gets to be mischievous. It's a terrific piece of music. So everything worked together in exactly the way you'd want it to. It functions in the movie the way you want it to. It's absolutely incredibly fun to sing. It was a chance to show the sort of mischievous side of Clopin. So, all those things together made it a great recording session and a lot of fun to do. And everyone who was there actually had a good time. I had a lot of friends who were backup singers on that number. So when I showed up at the studio, there are 8 or 10 people that I know, in the booth singing backup, and it was just fun. It's a great piece. So, you said you like it. I like it too, and as far as fun is concerned, that was the funnest thing to record.
Yeah, it does break up from the seriousness of the movie and makes it a little more of what the Gypsies truly are. It kind of captures that essence of, that free-flowing, fun, mischievous side of the Gypsies and this underworld that you heard about throughout the entire film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I guess with the film itself and Paris and all the fun things and, Notre Dame and being everything, have you ever had a chance to visit the actual location to this date? I mean, I know many people have been there, many haven't. I know it's on my bucket list.
Well, it's on mine, too. Let's say that. And when all of your fans, decide to chip in for a ticket to Paris, then I'll go. I mean, I've traveled a lot of places in the world for work, and France is not one of them. So I have not been to Notre Dame, and it's on my bucket list too.
I think that would be a great photo opportunity for all the listeners out there to have you wear the Gypsy mask in front of Notre Dame right there.
Ready to go as soon as the ticket comes in the mail.
Well, we don't want to keep you too long, but I guess, looking back at the film, it seems like you had a fun time doing it, great memories, and, like I said, the film went on to do many different things in terms of pushing the limits for storytelling, and artistic side, and then, of course, there was also the small stage show that they had at the Hollywood studios. Did you ever have a chance to check out any of the characters or the stage shows when they had them at the parks, over its course of its run?
Okay, good question. No, I didn't see them. However, ironically, a friend of mine from undergraduate school played my part in that stage show.
Wow.
I mean, and we look entirely different. And when that show opened, I got a call from this guy who I hadn't spoken to since I finished undergraduate school, was in 1973. I got a call from this guy who I hadn't spoken to in 25 years to say, guess what, I'm playing you in this stage show. So, I mean, it was incredibly ironic and very sweet. He got a good job out of it. He enjoyed doing it. But I didn't have the opportunity to get down there and see it.
Yeah, it was a fantastic show. We had a chance to see it many times, and, I know you can find it on YouTube and a variety of places, but, I'm always curious as to, when, people are in there doing voice acting and the work for these films, it's always rare that they get a chance to see how immersive it is at the parks. I know when the film got released, we were down there as well, and, we saw your character walking up and down throughout the Hollywood studios, and, it's just, I'm always curious as if the actors and the people who portray these characters ever get a chance to, see this as well, because it truly does affect the listeners and the fans, and, it's that on top of the film, on top of everything that has brought all these listeners to be such fans of yours and your character.
Well, I can only say that I didn't get a chance to see that show, but my old college colleague did get a chance to play it, and I'm sure he was terrific. And I'm glad on all fronts. I'm glad that people enjoyed that show. I'm glad that he got that job. I can't say whether it would be easy for me to watch it or feel funny, honestly. Would it be odd to watch somebody else be you? Or would it be thrilling? I don't know one way or the other. In all the shows that I've been in on Broadway, when people, when they take a vacation, will pick a day when they're back from their vacation to watch the show from the audience. And they'll be watching their understudy play that role, and they'll be seeing the show as a whole from the audience, which you never get to do when you're on stage. That is something I've never done. The idea of inhabiting the imaginary world and only seeing it from that point of view.
Okay.
So I have never seen from the audience any of the shows that I've been in.
Well, I guess that keeps it true to you portraying that character. You don't want to taint that, and that portrayal just makes it truly, genuinely yours.
In a way, yes. and I'm kind of protective of that because it's all I have. It's all any performer has is their single self they can bring to their work. And that's the one thing that nobody can take away or change or modify. So as a performer, that's your one secret.
Now, I guess, with the film, and like you said, looking back and watching things, have you had the chance to actually go back and watch the film a variety of times at all? Or is that something as well where you feel the same way as your Broadway shows where, you're not really watching it or, how, I guess, where does that land?
No, I've watched it many, many times, and I always find new little things that I didn't see before. Something about the animation, something about the way one of my colleagues did their job. These were extraordinary people. Kevin Kline is a very talented man. And Tom Hulse, who I just ran into the other day, who's moved into producing. I was doing a reading of the new musical, and Tom was there looking to produce it. Demi Moore. These are very talented people. And so I can watch that film 30 times and see something new that I missed in the last 29 times I watched it that I admire. Not so much about my work, but about other people's work.
Well, it's the kind of thing where, like you said, you always notice something different and something more fun. And I guess the one thing that will always be remembered as well, and it even has an effect on my children, they watch the film and your voice is the first thing that sets the tone, it sets the mood, and, it kind of sets that stage. And, I like to say that, for every person that watches that, at least 1 or 2 out of every 5, your character is definitely one that they all want to pretend to be or, have fun doing because it's just, it's definitely a memorable role.
Well, that's a great thought. That's a great thought that there are a whole bunch of kids who want to give their try at Clopin. And interestingly, that opening number was written late on.
It's hard to imagine the film without that kind of number now because, it really it sets the mood. It tells the story. And, I couldn't imagine that film opening up any other way than the way it does now because it does such a great job of setting up this, serious tone for a Disney movie. And
I feel exactly the same way, and oddly, we were about a third of the way through the process of making it, and the film had metamorphosed in various ways, and then I got a call that Alan and Stephen had written a new opening number, and could I come into the studio to do a demo, and it was that opening number. And, as I told you, usually you spend hours and hours doing things over and over and over and over. And I learned the music. I went into the studio. Now, this was just a demo. This was not to go directly into the movie. It was to decide whether they were going to use it. And I went into the studio, and I recorded it one time. Wow. And Stephen got on the intercom and said, "You aced it. That's it. We're out of here." That's the only time I ever heard that in all the time we were working on that piece. And it was so right to open the movie, and they were so confident of it, which they should have been, that, once it went through channels, it was decided, okay, this is absolutely the way we're going to do it, and then we went through the normal recording process. But it wasn't there from the beginning. It took a little while before that was written to fit into the form of the film as it was developing.
Yeah, it's a fantastic number, and sets that tone. And like I said, you're the first voice that everybody hears. So, I want to thank you once again for spending some time with us and talking with us. And like I said, all the Disney listeners out there, they love your character. They love the films. And, it's true that Disney continues to pass on these films over and over again. And now it's released again on Blu-ray. And, it's something that people can pass down from generation to generation. And, we truly want to thank you once again for stopping in and spending some time and, talking with all of us about this film because it truly is an artistic piece of art that is truly a different direction for Disney. I almost put it up there with, being right next to Sleeping Beauty in terms of being this radical development and change in the Disney animation process.
Well, I agree with everything that you've just said. I thank you for having me on. I thank all of your listeners who have a wonderful time looking at Clopin, and to congratulate you on conducting a really interesting and fun interview. So thank you very much for having me, and I've enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks once again.
My pleasure.